Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 99 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. It is insane to me that we are getting close to 100. We've got some special stuff planned for that episode, so you're just going to hang on and wait on that because it's coming, I promise. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance.
And we are, if we sound a little bit weird today, we're not in our usual setup, we're not in our usual spot. We're in a very large and open room because we are recording live at Conway, Conway. Just kind of in the middle of the building. That's where we're at, just here. And it's been a great time so far. Craig's already popping bottles, y'all. This is how we roll at cons. It's 9:26 a.m. and Craig is just drinking hard.
That Mountain Dew. I need the caffeine.
he's dosing.
Gonna funnel that caffeine.
So, man, this is one of my this is one of my favorite cons every year. I don't know about you guys. It's been a great weekend. We've gotten to hang out with some of our friends. We've gotten to have conversations with some great creators, some of which we're hoping we can bring to you later on in this show or in other shows. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So, but we also, because of that, we're kind of on a time frame. So it's not going to be a short show. It's just going to be maybe abbreviated for what you guys are used to when you're listening to the show. But hopefully, I won't fuck it up. We'll see what happens. It has been a busy as shit week, though, preparing for the con and doing stuff. So a lot of reading did not get done.
Yeah, it was. I got my books read, but not just barely.
Yeah. So what do you guys? I mean, we still got some reading done though. So drop some short stacks on me. Tell me what you read this week.
I read Family Tree #1, Image Comics, Jeff Lemire, Phil Hester, Eric Gapster, Ryan Cody. Either of you guys read this book?
I haven't yet. It's on my pile.
If he dropped the ball on Berserker Unbound, he picked it back up on this book. Yeah, it's really freaking good.
Yeah.
Morbius #1 from Marvel Comics, Vita Alea, Marcelo Ferreira. Maybe that's how you say his name.
Sounds good.
Roberto Poggi, Nano Sanchez Almara. This book was a lot better than I expected it to be. Mm-hmm. I don't typically go for these kinds of books, these offshoots of, people that are really just meant to be in other books. Yeah. They're B or C listers. I don't typically go for them. But this was really a fun book, and it was really well done. The art was good. And X-Men #2, I don't know that we really need to talk about it a whole lot, but it was just a wonderful freaking book. Jonathan Hickman, Linnell Francis Yu, Jerry Alguinian, Sonny Go, and Clayton Cowles. Just Hickman continues to freaking kill it on this book.
Train keeps rolling.
Yeah. He killed it all right.
He didn't kill it. That killing happened in a different book.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Go ahead, Matt.
I read, Marvel Comics, The Savage Sword of Conan #11 by Roy Thomas, Alan Davis, Cam Smith, and Chris Sotomayor. This was a second part of a two-part story done by Roy Thomas and Alan Davis, two old souls from the Conan-verse. And I just thought it was really cool to see them step back into this and Roy Thomas do this without missing a beat and just deliver some classic Conan stuff. One of my favorite lines was Conan saying, "You will regret stabbing me."
You called them old souls. I prefer to call them high priest of the Church of Howard. So
it rocks, man.
Those two men, yeah.
You will regret stabbing me. That is a great line.
I loved that line. It's like, wow.
That was one of them. I didn't make it to you.
Yeah, man, it's fun, man. It was a really just, like I said, him stepping right back in after him doing these all throughout the 70s, and he just didn't miss a beat. It was cool as hell. DC Comics Far Sector #1 by N.K. Jemisin and Jamal Campbell. This was cool. I expected it to be. I mentioned this author I was familiar with on our last show, and she delivered. It is a space police procedural murder mystery. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes.
It's a Green Lantern book, right?
Yeah. She is a Green Lantern who's been stationed in a far sector.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard good things.
Is she an Earth Green Lantern?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Another one.
Yeah, yeah.
Half of the Green Lantern Corps is from Earth.
80 years ago, they never heard of our planet. Now it's the main recruiting station.
We are the ghetto of the universe.
I prefer to think that humans are just killing it, man. They're just spreading the talent around.
Maybe that's it. But you also have Kilowog. I need more of him.
Yeah.
So we're his people.
So I recommend that. I recommend that book, especially if you like a good murder mystery. So pick it up. Image Comics Reaver number 5. Justin Jordan, Rebecca Isaacs, and Alex Guimarães. This freaking series rocks. Yep. Man, read this series, people. Each issue, it keeps escalating itself in quality. It's killer.
I remain one issue behind.
I know, and I can't talk about it because of you.
Well,
because of you.
Somehow I didn't get signed up on this book, and I have no idea how. But on the first of the month, I get my books from Justin.
Yeah, because you're a Patreon member.
Yeah, I get the signed copy from Justin. So I'm a month freaking behind. And every time Matt's like, "Oh, this book was good," I'm like reading the one behind, going, "Yeah, it's really good."
Oh man,
no, Justin Jordan's killing it on this.
It's might be his second best book, and I only say that because he hasn't written 18 issues like he did with Luther Strode. But might be the second best thing I've ever read. And could be the first. After
he says he's got 16 issues in the books. It will definitely go 16 issues, and depending on sales, it'll go longer. Yeah.
And Rebecca Isaacs and he together are just killing it here.
Not only that, dude. Alex Guimarães, I call him Ali G just because we're tight like that. But he's top of my colorists of the year so far. Y'all know how I like spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
My spreadsheets are my favorite people.
It became too much work trying to keep up with these comics.
You don't understand how much I like work and hate not work.
So yeah, pick this, man. I cannot recommend this series enough. The last page on this issue was so
it's number 5, so it's probably the end of the first story arc. So.
No, number 5. It's got to be at least 1 more issue.
Okay.
Yeah, 6-issue arc.
If I remember him speaking to it, it was a 6-issue arc.
Yeah.
Okay, so probably 6, 5, and 5 since there's 16 issues in the book.
Yeah,
would be my
possibly.
Guess.
Well, all right. So you know how every once in a while...
Are you going to give us your short say?
I am.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going to.
Oh, okay. I thought you were moving on. I'm sorry.
Hurry up.
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to not hear what you'd read this week.
I want to go.
Okay, go. Please
speak.
Hey, how's that feel over there, right there? How's that feel?
I earned that. I'll take it. Folks who are listening to the show, you understand where that came from. Yeah, so you know how every once in a while a dog will start to look like its owner?
Yes.
Or so they say. That's
I'm interested to see where this is going.
I feel like I'm the dog in this situation. I'm starting to look like my owners because 2 of the 3 books that I signed up for on my short stack are Savage Sword of Conan, number 11, by Roy Thomas and Alice Davis, the high priests of all things, Robert E. Howard, and X-Men number 2 by Hickman and Yu, to which I currently have subtitled, Why Don't You Do What You Say and Say What You Do? And then, last but not least, we're going to talk about that on a different episode. It's not the book is phenomenal. The book is phenomenal. I am aggravated about press releases, and
that's why you don't have to pay attention to all that shit.
Have you met me? Have you met Craig?
Have you not met any of these people? They all lie about what they're doing.
Do you understand now that I read things and I need to be alive? No, the whole thing about how there was the big cock swinging when he came out. It was I went to the editor's office and I told him we're not killing anybody. It doesn't work anymore. It's stupid. The whole trying to not necessarily kill people, but trying to pretend like it's a real thing. It's just fans don't buy that anymore, and we're going to set it up to where it doesn't matter because they can all just be resurrected and whatever, and there's no stress to it. And the first thing they fucking do is kill one of the few people who it could matter. I'm just okay, you did the exact thing you said you weren't going to do. That's aggravating to me. But the story's great. No qualms with the story whatsoever. I love it. I just wish they hadn't came out and said they weren't going to do what they're going to do.
This episode of Caleb's Rant brought to you by Conway, presented by the Faulkner County.
Don't bother saying it if you're not going to do it, or if you know that another person.
Brought to you by All Natural Stool Softeners.
There's a lawn. It's mine. Don't stand on it. But so the third book, you guys already talked about 2 of my books. I'm not going to rehash those too much. The third book that I read and really enjoyed and want to throw out here is a book I'm going to talk about on a later episode. I did not have time to really break it down because it's a very dense, thick kind of book. And it's called Pass Me By, Gone Fishing. Book 1 of a series. It's by Kyle Simmers and Ryan Danny Owen. long story short, the book follows this guy named Ed who is in the early stages of Alzheimer's and is kind of struggling to cope as life is, at least the world as he know it, he's starting to forget things, starting to slip him by. We spoke about it a few episodes ago on the Halloween, like what scares you thing. Alzheimer's, hands down, I am terrified of it. That is my greatest fear, is that I will one day exist in a body that I don't know, and I'll look at like my husband, who I've spent my entire life loving, and I won't have any clue who he is. That is my greatest fear. And
well, the good news is you won't know that it's happening.
Well, that's true, but still, I worry about that now. But this book kind of touches on a lot of those things, and
you get to meet a lot of new people
every day. It's a brand new. You just wake up in a new place.
To meet a lot of new people, like the toaster.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
no, I mean I'm making light of it, but
yeah.
it's a very serious condition. Yeah. I've seen many people affected by it, including my wife's grandmother and my uncle.
Yeah, I know you guys went through that. This book speaks to a lot of that, and it's a really, like, the art is very. He picks a few colors and plays with them. He doesn't have a heavy palette. There's a lot of washed out color line work. There's a lot of pinks and greens, kind of just to set the mood. It really is just basically putting a color on a page in a large swath to set a tone. Very nice. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm
maybe one that I want to read at some point.
I think you'd enjoy it. Yeah, I'm gonna speak on it one day, but today is not that day, because today we are talking about a family meal book that we're going to roundhouse called The Dollhouse Family numero
roundhouse. We're going to roundhouse.
Just kick it right in the face.
Yeah,
with a hammer.
I pulled a muscle.
Right? I can't be doing that no more.
I can't either.
So, Craig, did you pick this book out, or did who pick this book out?
I don't remember.
Did we collectively?
You and I did it collectively, and then I sent Matt a text.
So this book is, I think, the second or the third.
It's the second.
It's the second of this new Joe Hill line. I don't call it an imprint, but it's an imprint.
You don't call it an imprint because DC doesn't do imprints anymore, but it's an imprint.
But it's an imprint. It's called the Hill House Comics. There's these kind of horror based things that are being pushed forward by Joe Hill, and I think so far there's been a pretty high success rate of enjoyment.
The first two have been really good.
When it comes to them. So this book it's like I said, it's called The Dollhouse Family #1, One by One Go Down, written by MR Carey, and I love the way that they credited these, because they said layouts by Peter Gross instead of pencils, finishes by Vince Locke instead of inks, of course colors by Chris Peter, and letters by the great Todd Klein.
They didn't say crayons by?
No, they didn't. I just think it's cool when they say things like layouts and finishes instead of just going like for me, it adds a little bit of a taste of sophistication to it or something.
Well, layouts could mean two things.
I wonder
it's
about
roughs.
Yeah, I wonder just if there is a professional differentiating factor in that, because if you look at Frank Miller's layouts, those are some motherfucking layouts.
Yeah,
well, I know John Lucas. In past talking to him, he's been hired by other artists sometimes to do layouts.
Yeah.
And that is literally just breaking down the panels per page for people. So it could mean multiple things.
It could be as little as that. The way I've talked to other artists is like, if you have an artist who's just trying to rush and get done, you got an inker that's gonna embellish.
That you really know and trust. Yeah.
You've developed kind of a shorthand with. You'll do these almost thumbnail roughs. Like a beautiful couple is
June Brigman and Roy Richards.
Oh,
they do it better than anybody.
Absolutely,
in that same style. So
and Miller and Klaus.
There's a few couple out there for sure.
Yeah. So let's kind of, what did you guys think about it? I enjoyed this book. It's not. I'm not going to add it to my pull list. Not going to lie. It's not making it on there. It didn't entice me.
It will definitely make it to my pull list. I thought it was really good. I like what they're doing with the story. It's definitely a setup, but it gives you enough to hook you. I feel like, anyways. I think it's intriguing what's going on in the book. So
I think I'm going to give it another issue. It's interesting to me what they're setting up and how the fuck these things are connected.
Right.
This ancient being that's been on the planet for millions of years in a dollhouse.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this connection should be really interesting. I mean, how are they going to make... So I want to see how these are connected. So I'm going to give this at least another issue. And I thought the quality of the book was solid as hell. The art was great. The dialogue was great. Everything flowed well. It was easy to read. Yeah. I think it's just a matter of whether this is your thing or not, if you're going to stay on it.
I think
because of quality.
I think that's it too. For me, it's definitely something that's in my wheelhouse. I love horror and I love this kind of psychological horror that they're doing with this.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about these things instead of just dancing around them. Let's break it down. So the book starts off about a millennia ago, I'd say. And there's something from the outer reaches of space just falling to Earth. And, looks like kind of like a meteor. We're not really sure what it is. And, it brings with it, as these kind of things do, fire and destruction. Wipes out everything on the planet. Team Meteor, go Smod. So then from the bottom of a flaming crater, just this thing gets up. Like, that's not supposed to happen. This isn't how those things are supposed to work. But, if you give a planet a couple of million years after a disaster, after a life-ending thing, planets have a tendency to bounce back. They're like children. You can drop them and they'll bounce.
No.
That's not how that works?
No.
That message is not endorsed. Southern Fried Geekery.
I've been lied to my whole life.
Please do not drop your child and see if
those movies you watch are not documentaries.
See, this is disturbing now. Somebody's lied to me. I'm more disturbed about that.
This
than
is why
dropping babies.
Caleb can't have children.
No, I shouldn't. I don't want them. So
it has nothing to do with your sexuality. It has to do with we don't want you dropping
that is
babies.
a side note. I'll throw a kid against a wall. But seriously, like if you give a planet that's went through one of these disasters enough time, it'll bounce back. So by 1979, our time, the Earth finds itself green, lush again, and inhabited by the shittiest creatures to ever crawl out of the primordial soup, which is us. Pete and Kel are a young couple living in England with their daughter. Her name is Alice. And the trio, they find themselves on this day, a day that will change their lives forever. Bum, bum, bum. They're standing in their living room, and they're kind of staring at this giant-ass dollhouse that it's just been delivered to their home. Like, the thing is still sitting on crates. And they're kind of just gobsmacked looking at this thing. I mean, it's huge, like Huge huge. And it's extremely intricately detailed.
It's not huge.
No, huge. It's extremely intricately detailed. Fortunately,
we're to the point that the library has little books in it.
Yeah, there's so much to it, and fortunately
it's
it came
one
with
hell of a dollhouse. That's what he's trying to say.
It's gargantuan.
No pun intended.
It's a gem of a dollhouse.
This thing came with a note, right? Because they're kind of sitting around wondering, like, where did this came? Well, why is this here? And so this dollhouse apparently is a gift from dear old departed great Aunt Margaret, may God rest her soul, and it's a little Alice. She's like, hey, I want this to give this child as much joy as it brought me and my kids. And this is kind of a surprise to everyone, especially because Kel, who's the mom, didn't even know she had a great Aunt Margaret. Like, this just kind of came out of nowhere. And so it's a little weird that this strange woman has bequeathed a whole ass dollhouse to their daughter, to her great niece, when they've never met and didn't know she existed. But hey, here we are. Might as well see what's up with this. Not to mention, there's this kind of strange stray cat that apparently has gotten into the house at the same time that no one really acknowledges, except for the dad who wants to step on it.
No, the daughter plays with it.
Oh, is she playing with it? Okay.
Yeah, she calls them ghosts later.
Yeah. Oh, okay. She names it. See, you can't do that. Don't ever name it.
Don't name your cat Ghost.
Yeah, don't name the demon strays. So, there's that, and so weirdness is abounding, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Alice,
strange things are afoot.
Alice loves this dollhouse, right? Like, this is every little girl's dream dollhouse. It's huge, like I said, just detailed. So of course she wants to keep it, and her mom is like, sure, why not? It's a free dollhouse. It's big, but she's got a room. We'll do it. But the dad is a little bit of a dick about it. In the end, Alice wins out because mom's already said she could keep it. But still, the dad's like,
the price.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that. And, because he's like, oh, I didn't realize that we were done talking. And there's this kind of progressive thing that happens throughout the story. But you know what she finds inside? Like, what would be inside a little bitty dollhouse like this?
Peoples.
Yeah, there's little dollies. These little eensy beensy teeny weeny dollies. And of course, these dolls they're all prim and proper. They're dressed in like 19th century English garbs. They're high fashionistas, so to speak. And there seems to be kind of this whole family of them. And of course, Alice goes about the business of naming them as children are wont to do. And so she's sitting there and she's telling her mom. She's telling her all about these dollies and their little names. And these are not names that you would think a kid would name dolls in 1979. And there's a mommy dolly and a daddy dolly. And the mommy dolly, her name is Bess. And daddy doll kind of has a weird name. Like, she calls him Codwinner. Like the fish, like, oh, he won a fish. But it goes on throughout the book, and you think maybe this was like a misinterpretation, and the doll's name is Cordwainer. Daddy's doll might be named Cordwainer, which is kind of strange for a kid, right? Like, where did you pull this out of? And yeah, that's the
Pinio, I think.
I think that's maybe a better name than Codwinner.
No, isn't Pinio like the daughter's name?
It's Peggy-O.
Peggy-O, yeah.
So there's 3 kids. Mommy and Daddy doll have 3 children. Daniel and James and Peggy-O, and then it's seemingly Mommy and Daddy doll.
Yeah.
And the kids, they like to play this game in the library, or so Alice has made up, and she's telling her mom. And they're just a happy little doll family. And if you haven't figured out right now that there's, again, weirdness going on, then I can't help you.
Strangeness is again afoot.
So this is strange doings, is what I'm saying. And Kel is kind of picking on that, but hey, kids have crazy imaginations, so she just kind of chalks it up to having a creative daughter, and she just lets it go. So Alice, she stays in her room. She's got this new toy, and she's sitting there playing with her doll. And Kel goes back downstairs a little bit later. Alice hears her mom and dad fighting, like there's yelling going on downstairs, and you seem like maybe this isn't the most abnormal thing, but maybe this is worse than she's ever heard it before, because she's kind of concerned. So she walks downstairs, and she's just like, "Hey, what's up?" And they kind of stop fighting, and they readjust themselves. But like I said, there's a lot going on. Apparently, the dad is he's a carpenter, and he's having a hard time finding work. He's been laid off, and Kel has been floating the family with her job. Pete, the dad, he's gotten to the point where he seems to a little bit have given up on finding a job, and he's taking it out on his family, his wife. I mean, he's gotten really, really verbally abusive, and it seems like it's escalating to a point. And like these things do, they get worse if you don't stop them. So there's some blips in the story that I'm going to get to in a minute. I'm just going to kind of hold to this narrative, and we're going to go back and talk about these other things that tie into what Matt was saying earlier. So time passes on, and about 2 years later, in 1981, Mom and Dad's relationship has become physically abusive. I mean, Dad is beating his wife. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. It's not I knocked you over one time. Like, he's balling up his fist and hitting his wife.
There's no confusion.
No, there's none.
I pushed her, officer. I did not hit her.
Well, it's not like we got into an altercation. Like I accidentally hit her with like my elbow turning around or something like this. There's no mistaking this. Like he balls up, he punches this woman, and it's Alice can't hide from it anymore. Like it's just in front of her face, and she started to isolate herself in her room with this dollhouse. And you remember when I told you guys like 2.5 minutes ago that there were strange things happening with this dollhouse? Remember that? Well, we were right. The dolls have actually started to talk to Alice. Like they're speaking with her. They're communicating with her now. And they invite her inside. They're like, well, why don't, like, it's shitty out there. Why don't you come hang out with us in here? And she's like, well, I can't do that because, I'm huge and you're small and this place won't fit me. And it's like an Alice in Wonderland thing. And they're like, no, yeah, you can.
Drink me.
Yeah, here's a little incantation, you can say, like a spell. And when you say the spell, you'll shrink down to our size. And she does this. Like, I would do it. I'd be something. Oh, that sounds amazing. Like, let's do this. And she shrinks down to
the dollhouse shrunk the kids.
You're right. Don't get in the yard with a lawnmower. She shrinks down to doll size. She's able to go in the house, and so she actually gets to meet like Daniel and James and Peggy-O, the other kids. Like looks them in their eyes and becomes friends with them. And they've been talking to her the whole time too. But she's actually like able to engage in these games that they were playing, and it's wonderful, right? She's able to escape the sad reality of her everyday life in this dollhouse. And she just keeps going back to it. It's escapism for her. And as time does, it moves on again. And by 1982, things haven't gotten any better between Mom and Dad. I mean, they keep getting worse. Mom's got black eyes and she's just broken. And Pete, the dad, he's getting bolder in his violence. He's less inclined to hold himself back. He's beating his wife more frequently. And, Alice hasn't been acting the way that he wants her to either. And she's growing up now and she's almost a woman. And maybe, maybe he's thinking maybe he needs to give her a little bit of taste of what he gives his wife and get her back in line too. Like that seems to be his mind where he's going with it. And so this violence is about to start bridging the gap between his daughter and him very quickly. And I think the mom sees this and she kind of steps in and she's like, if you touch her, I will have you arrested. We will not put up with this the way I've been putting up with you this whole time. You will go to jail. And of course, that was. You can guess what followed.
She crossed the line.
Yeah, you can guess what followed after that.
He straightened up and
no,
was a happy ending.
He went and got counseling and fixed his life.
Not the healthy move was made. No.
What a twist.
Yeah, the dude's a scumbag. Like he's just like you can't help but hate this guy. And as all of this is happening, like I said earlier, the book kind of flashes back in several spots, and it flashes back to something that's not connected with this. It flashes back to the year 1826, where there's this young land surveyor named Joseph Kent, and he's kind of mapping out the land of County Wicklow. And as he's doing, he's meticulous in his surveying. Like if it's the guy's like, dude, like your mark is off by 6 inches. What the fuck does it matter? We're in a whole ass country. And he's like, they didn't pay us to be approximate. They paid us to be exact, and we will be exact. 6 inches over 800 miles is not exact.
Bravo, sir.
Right. I was like, word to this man. And so as he's going about this business, he kind of stumbles across this cavern he's never seen before. It's not listed on any of the old maps. Like, no one, what the fuck, where did this thing come from? And the cave is in and of itself is kind of fascinating. Like he walks up to it, and inside, like he can see this glow. The walls are glowing blue, and like, okay, you're reading a horror book and you're like, oh, but they provide an explanation. They're like, hey, no, there's this like bioluminescent bacteria that grows in this part of the world. It's just reflecting the sunlight. It soaks it in, gives it right back out. And these are real things that we know that happen in the world. And so they kind of give this things like, hey, that's not the spooky, right? Like, but it's kind of,
don't be scared of
it. It just looks really cool. And
don't worry, it's just glowing bacteria.
he's enticed by this. The number of times in college that would have saved my life.
Yeah. Don't worry about that, Doc. Just some of my glowing
bacteria. So Joseph Kent, like he's enticed by this, man. He's just got to go check this thing out. And his partner and the guy that's helping, he's like, dude, like, no. Like, what?
The sun's going down.
Yeah, like, this is a terrible idea. And Joseph's like, in what ways? In what ways is like, here's what I'm going to do. There's no way this can go bad.
Cave all by myself at dusk.
I'm going to take, and he again, meticulous. He's like, I'm going to take 100 steps. I will count my steps. I will take 100 steps. And if I haven't, like, there's nothing to see by the time I come back, because I know the sun's going down, I'll just come right back out here. And like, because nothing can go wrong, dude, I'm just going to walk into a cave, like 100 steps. It's too easy. So 3 days later, he's walking through this cave, and he's just trying to find his way out.
He lost count.
He took more than 100 steps. He took that 101.
He said he quit counting.
Yeah, he just that 101 just
100 wasn't enough, and he just
screwed him over.
Literally.
Yeah, just done. So he's still walking through this cave 3 days later. He's a little bit hungry, a little bit thirsty. Like he started drinking cavern water, which again, not maybe
so
the smartest idea.
Cavern water.
It could be trademarked, bottled 2020.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's all our bottled water is.
He walks into this clearing that's in this cave. It's kind of like this room in the center, and there's this. Kind of looks like this giant man-like figure. He did fall down a cave. That's right. Thank you for correcting that.
No, I mean,
he stumbled and just went down the well.
Fell.
He's gone.
He took
He's
one
never
too many steps, and there was
he should have stopped at 100.
do what you say and say what you're going to do.
Can't depend on bacteria.
So he gets to the like you said, he literally stumbles upon this thing.
Yeah.
And it seems to be this giant man-like figure, but it's not. There's not like it's literally giant. And it looks like it's kind of made out of clay, is what it seems like. And it's like just like a very rough form of a human, just 20 times bigger. And I guess it's sleeping. And Joseph, in his best wisdom, again, this guy makes excellent choices. He's going to walk up and poke it. It seems to be his response, like, I'm going to touch this thing.
He's a scientist.
So, but as he's doing it, he hears this woman's voice out of nowhere. Like he's been alone in a cave and drinking cavern water, and he's going to poke a giant clay man. And obviously what happens next is you hear woman. And she's just like, she says something along the lines of, hey, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And he turns around and he sees this gorgeous, beautiful, fair-skinned, dark-haired young woman.
This always happens in caves.
Standing there. Watery tarts passing out swords or something. And there's just something about her voice that it's mesmerizing. And this is earlier when I said Todd Klein, the great Todd Klein. You don't often hear us give kudos to letters. Most of the time, if they're doing their job, you don't notice it. Todd Klein is a genius, and he did what he did well. Like he inversed the colors for her voice, gave it a different font. It was stunning lettering work. So, as you might do, again, the maker of excellent choices, he does the most reasonable thing that any man who's been lost for 3 days in a cave would do when he stumbles upon giant clay sleeping men and strange women. He lays down and lets her fuck him.
I mean,
yeah, so,
reasonable.
That's just what I think you should
Watery
do.
tarts passing out fucks.
And
it's been a few days.
This is the good too. Like, this is, like, she just kind of full cowgirl.
This is not regular cavern sex.
This is like, she's just like, sauntery and saucy, and she just kind of hikes up her skirt, gives him a little glimpse, and just, drops the sex sauce on him. And quite frankly, we should all be so lucky to have cave sex of this caliber, I think.
If you haven't already.
As he comes to, because she just fucks him into unconsciousness, which is a dream, I think, for the world. He kind of sees her walking off, and you just kind of leave him there on the floor. He's been cavern fucked. He's a
also
man.
An excellent part.
So, back in the mid-'80s, Alice has, she's watched the things in her family get progressively worse. Between her parents, maybe good cave sex would do them well to kind of revigorate their relationship. Probably not. He's just kind of an asshole. But so Alice goes to Mama Doll for advice, and Mama Doll can't help but wonder if maybe the black room in the dollhouse would might help. She said too much. Mm-hmm. As she starts in this conversation, she kind of backs up, and this is like she planted a seed. So Alice is like, "What is this black room?" She's like, "I really shouldn't tell you about it. Just go play with the kids." Well, Alice does. She goes to the other doll children and she goes plays, and she's like, "Hey, what's the deal with this black room that Mom just told me about? What's up with that?" And kids don't have filters. They go ahead and just break it down for her. I mean, they're kind of like, "We're not supposed to talk about this, but let me go ahead and tell you what it is." And it turns out the black room is this room in the house that no one gets to go to unless the house wants you to. Like, the door only appears at a certain time for certain people. And
once in your
you get one. Yeah, you get one. That's it. If you really want to enter it, it opens itself up to you, but you only get one chance. But lo and behold, this is her chance. The door opens for her, and they kind of show her where it's supposed to be, and it's there, and it opens for her, and she steps inside, and the room begins to speak to her, and it's a voice. It's not unlike the voice that Joseph Kent heard from the woman, and you can tell that again by Todd Klein's letterings. And it speaks to her. The room does, and it's this. It's weird, and it's a voice it seems to know her life, and it's telling her, "Hey, like, your dad is just this massive asshole, and he's going to kill you and your mother. Like, your mom is going to die if you don't step up and do something. Like, it's up to you. Like, you can just keep coming.
Stop this.
Yeah, you can do it." And again, planting seeds. The room plants this little seed in Alice's mind that it grows into the idea, and the idea blooms into a better idea, and she's got to save her mom and stop her dad. And where the book leaves us and goes on to issue 2, she does just that with a hammer.
Backing up, the book offered her, the room offered her a chance to stay in the dollhouse.
Yeah.
And it would take care of her father. Mm-hmm. But it did plant that seed.
Yeah. And it kind of spit her out whenever she made that choice. Like, the house expelled her.
Well, it told her to think about it and come back. So it actually is giving her a second chance, which is something that they had told her that she didn't get. She only got one chance.
So I'm interested to see. Again, I didn't dislike this book. I think it's a fine book. I think it's great. I think I love the art in this book. And for this first issue, I don't know about you. Like, I felt like this issue was dense.
There was a lot.
There was.
There was a lot in this book. I'm looking forward to you guys telling me what happened. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to stay on this because it's not my cuppa. But it's, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I enjoyed it. There was one thing that kind of got me. I don't know if you guys know this. Like, we noticed this. We went through 3 years of time. The little girl never seemed to change. And I
didn't realize we'd went through 3 years of time. Yeah. So when you said that time had passed, I was like, she was drawn the same. So, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so
maybe she was spending too much time in the dollhouse and keeping her the same age or
That's
something.
one of those things, maybe we'll see how this unfolds.
And again, that could be just me not suspending my, again, you have to approach comics with a suspension of disbelief, right? Like, you have to let some things go, and maybe I should let that go. Maybe it wasn't intended to be a thing. And maybe I'm just looking for the small things too much. I don't know, but it really did kind of, I don't know, it bothered me. I was like, why isn't this little girl getting any older if 3 years are passing? and you know.
Well, amidst of everything else, I didn't make note of it because of everything else that's happening in the story is also supernatural. So.
Yeah. Well, and
giving it a chance to explain itself is what I mean by that.
I think it definitely deserves a chance to explain itself. But like, what I'm saying is, I don't know if that's a plot point or just a missed opportunity.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah. And if it's a plot point, like I want to know what's happening. If it's a missed opportunity, then I wonder why an editor didn't catch that. Because what would have been different about this book? Like you said, Craig, you didn't even realize that 3 years had passed.
I'm really bad about paying attention to the notes on what year it is in a comic book. I mean, I'm just honest. When comic books jump back and forth in time, a lot of times I'll be like, "What the hell just happened?" And I'll have to. I always skip that little note in the top corner that tells me what year it is. Or I don't know why, but it's just like a mental block I have.
I think what I'm getting at is sometimes those things are important. But
usually they're there for a reason.
In this book, if the art does not show that there is a visual change, then that's not important. So why play into it?
I think it has to do with it has to do with the dollhouse. Now that you said it, and again, I didn't catch it, but now that you say it, I believe that it probably has to do with the dollhouse is probably slowing her aging, because one of the things that we didn't talk about in the summary there was that the people in the dollhouse are not related.
No, they're not. So
they are all different people. So seemingly, all different.
Extrapolate on that, because that's something I picked up on. But I just, like I said, book was so different.
It talks about. I think she says, "Oh well, I thought you guys were brothers or something," and they said, "No, we're just here in the dollhouse. We're just here together." And so they're acting as a family in this dollhouse, but they are from, apparently different families, different places, different times, and they are all just coming together. And based on the fact that this dollhouse offered her a chance to live in the dollhouse and take care of her father for her and save her mom, we're assuming that it's some sort of deal that the dollhouse is making. I'm assuming it's some sort of deal that the dollhouse is making with these people to fix their, save somebody in their life, or, making deals with them or whatever to get them to stay in the dollhouse as they like them. So it's almost like a collector of souls or a collector of lives or whatever. That's the way I'm taking it.
I can see that. But I could also see, again, with Joe Hill, who's not writing this, but he is kind of
editing.
He's puppeteering. Like I could see it going in that direction with him. But I mean, again, like Matt said earlier, how does this tie into the giant man who fell from the sky?
And there's plot points that aren't all tied up in the first issue.
Tying those in is going to be very interesting.
Well, I'm assuming that the man that fell from the sky is the dude that's in the cave that he finds, and then the entity is the woman that later is the dollhouse. So that I'm sure it will all be explained in due time. But there's a lot of threads that were started, and hopefully they will all be tied up. I'm looking forward to it, but again, it's one of those books that this is kind of my thing. Yeah. So, there's technically nothing wrong with this book.
Not at all. No, I don't. And I love the art. Yeah. I think the art is beautiful. He's got a very thin line style. It's not to the quality and caliber of Jeff Shaw, but it's in that same school. I think I say Jeff. It's Shaolin Cowboy who did that. Was that?
I don't know.
I'm going blank.
We need Jerry for this question. He's the one that read that book.
I'm pulling a blank. I think it was Jeff Darrow.
I was going to say Darrow.
Jeff Darrow did that. It's same school as Jeff Darrow, not to the quality of Jeff Darrow, which is, nobody is. So that's not a knock. Jeff Darrow's a genius. Yeah. But I really did enjoy the line work to it and the backgrounds that they provided, and the way that they move through. Look, it's no small feat when you're an artist, and having spoken to artists, like, you give me a time and place, so I go research what a time and place looks like, and I get used to drawing that time and place. When you start jumping around from not only decade to decade, but literally century to century, and they have to change to figure out how to draw the clothes and the wallpaper and those little meticulous things, and he did a fantastic job. Like, there was no when they shifted, you felt the shift.
Am I the only one that wondered when they were in the dollhouse eating dinner if it was a plastic turkey?
What they were eating? No,
where did the turkey come from that they were eating? Did Mom run down to get canned corn for this, or what?
That is the real question here. Where did the turkey come from?
Obviously, the black door is also a pantry and provides them everything they need.
That's just helpful.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the problem is with this black door in this
I don't know
dollhouse.
why she decided to go back out into the world.
You know how much I would give for one of these doors?
Yeah, right. How much?
Also,
I
this-
want to know.
$7.
Exactly. Not $7.01, not $6.99. $7.
$7.
Yeah, so, I think the moral of the story of this comic book is don't accept gifts from dead relatives you don't know.
See, as somebody who's currently studying property law, wills are a big thing, and if you're going to do that in 3 years, you can call me and you can pay me to help you with these
Well,
things.
I mean, she
Don't
did,
depend
she
on the
did
glowing
bequeath
bacteria.
it to her. It wasn't just a
Yeah.
bequeath it to her. It wasn't just please fix bequeath. Bequeath it.
Don't
to
accept those either.
her. Because it was a formal letter and all that.
Yeah.
So it was it was rightly done. But
Yeah.
from a relative they don't know.
For the very early in the book, I identified very well with Dad, and he's like, "I think we need to check the value on this." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, yes, sir,
Yes. Let's take
At what point, just for my personal comfort,
you
at
quit
what
it?
point did you stop identifying with Dad?
The next panel.
Okay, cool.
the next panel. Yeah.
I needed to know that so we can still be friends.
Because I was like, "Oh, wait, this guy's a total dick."
Yeah, when he threw a fit that Mom had already given it to the baby, I was checked out.
Yeah. Well, I think when he wanted to hit the cat with a broom, this cat is what I'm most interested in. Like, because that seems to be a
cat's
very
playing a part of it, and there's some things going on here for sure. There's, like I said, there's a lot of threads, and we've only begun to see where they're going. So
I want
it's
to
a setup book, but brilliantly done. I feel like
there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much into this. I enjoyed my time with it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think I'm going.
I'll
on
let
this.
you know how it is.
Yeah, I'm not going on this journey with you guys, but I'm looking forward to you coming back and telling me about it. So because there's just a ton of stuff, and I really do like that. At least for DC, I've said it before. I'm growing cold in a way to superhero comics right now. There's only a few books out there that are really pulling me in, and these things go in waves. Like they come and go, right? So I'll get my superheroes back at some point. But right now, I'm more interested in these other
Well, I
genres.
do the same though. The story arcs fall away from you, and you kind of drop off. But it's
And
give us some other stuff.
I'm
and
looking.
enjoying it.
I appreciate the fact that DC is letting Joe Hill do this and bring horror books back, because that's one thing that Marvel needs and DC needs. Like these bigger companies, they need to branch out their genre. It shouldn't just be capes and tights if they want to survive. I mean, the industry's got to do a lot of things differently as far as like.
Well,
what's
I mean,
bringing
the
folks into
big two are
comic
known
shops.
for capes, right? And then the
Not necessarily. Marvel was known for Star Wars. Marvel was known for Conan. Marvel was known for Rom.
Well, by and large, they're
By and
market
large.
share.
They are now because the direct market's killed anything else.
yeah. But the independent stuff, there's lots of other stuff out there. So the material's out there. You just sometimes have to find it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see this imprint, non-imprint from DC.
Yeah.
Where we can get these horror
Don't
stories.
call it an imprint.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this not an imprint.
Joe
Well,
Hill House.
Joe Hill House. Maybe this is maybe Joe Hill is the house. So maybe he's just the house. Well, let's talk about some of those other books that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I know we all read some other stuff this week. We all brought something to the table. Craig, you want to kick us off on this one?
Sure,
bud?
I'll go first. So I think it was Jerry's last episode. He talked about Tales from the Dark Multiverse and talked about the Superman one. I'm going to talk about Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Blackest Night. And it's published by DC Comics. Tim Seeley is the writer. Pencils by Kyle Hotz. Inks by Dexter Vines, Walden Wong, and Danny Miki. Colors by David Barron and Alan Pasalakwa, I guess is how you say the name.
It is today.
And letters by Tom Napolitano. And that's all I have time for now that I've read all the creators on there. It was a lot of people working on this book.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So the thing that these books all do is they set the stage for you. They tell you what happened in the regular DC universe and then tell you where it splits and then takes you to this dark multiverse. So if you remember Blackest Night, Sinestro gets the White Lantern ring and he shares the power with Hal Jordan. And then Hal Jordan actually stops the Blackest Night from happening.
Right.
Well, in this universe, Sinestro says, "No, I'm the stronger Lantern. I'm going to keep all the power to myself." and which was a really bad move.
It's a very Sinestro move, though.
Yeah. I mean, it made a lot of sense. But so in this world, the Blackest Night won, and everybody in the universe is pretty much dead, except for a handful of people.
Finally get some peace and quiet.
Yes, except they're not really dead. They're all, Black Lanterns and zombies. So this starts with Dove and Lobo fighting the Teen Titans at Titan Tower, because we find out that Lobo has got a bounty on Dove from we don't know who yet.
Yeah.
And she decided that since she was the only one still alive, she was going to go to Teen Titan Tower, because she thought maybe there would be somebody there that could help her. But apparently she's immune to this because of her being the Avatar of Peace. Mm-hmm. She cannot be infected by the Blackest Night. And Lobo, of course, his healing factor keeps healing him. Every time he gets infected, he heals. Well, they're fighting, and lo and behold, Sinestro shows up. And Sinestro is half White Lantern and half dead. Like, picture Two-Face, but his entire body.
Okay.
So what happened is he's been infected, but the White Lantern is constant. The White Lantern ring is constantly fighting off the necro virus in him.
By the way, what you just described is his name is Gary Busey. Show some respect.
And so it's constantly fighting that off. So he's half alive, half dead. Which you get really funny things like Lobo calling him half stash and stuff like that, because his mustache will only grow on one side. So we find out that Sinestro can actually turn people back, like make them live for a minute. Mm-hmm. But they realize how painful life was, and then they go back to being dead. So it's like this short minute. And so he stops the fight so they can have a conversation. And that's when we find out that Lobo's got a bounty on her. He's taking her to this bounty, and Dove's like, wait, quit talking about me like I'm not here, but I'm going to go ahead and go with you anyways. So Sinestro rides along, and we kind of get this buddy cop thing, and they're flying to where the bounty, the client is. Yeah. And Dove and Sinestro fall asleep, and he wakes him up, and Sinestro's like, what the hell's this? And he's got a cigar poked on his face. Nice. And Lobo's like, yeah, I was using you as an ashtray while you were asleep.
Nice.
So, you get this. It was a buddy cop a team up that I didn't know I needed was Lobo and Sinestro, but it was fantastic. So they end up on Apocalypse, and everybody there is dead. Except for one person. You guys want to guess who's the one person that's been able to survive on Apocalypse?
Maybe.
Good.
Is it Dark Side?
No.
Granny Goodness?
No. It is Mr. Miracle.
Scot-free.
Because he keeps escaping because of his powers and his ability. So he will get into a room, he uses his boom tube and goes to the next room or whatever and keeps escaping from...
See, now I'm mad I didn't say that because I wasn't thinking... I guess I don't think about Mr. Miracle on...
I'm mad at you as well for not saying
I don't think about him on Apocalypse anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I'm double mad.
So he's got a plan, of course, because he's brilliant. So he's got this plan on how to solve things. Mm-hmm. And he's going to take Dove and go to the source wall, and he's created this harness that will harness the power from the source wall. If you guys remember, the source wall from the Green Lantern stories is actually a wall blocking another... space and time where there's a different universe, and he's going to reignite this universe with that power from the source wall.
Yeah.
And using her power, so forth. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to go along with you. Sinestro and Lobo are going to go along because we're the only 4 people left alive in the universe. So we're going to go and see and make sure this all happens. Mm-hmm. Well, they get there, and now guess who they forgot about? You said him a minute ago. Darkseid.
Yeah.
Who actually is a Black Lantern.
Oh, that's not
Darkseid.
Who thought that was a good idea?
So Darkseid immediately blasts Lobo and just obliterates him. Like nothing left, just blood floating through the universe. Wow. And you think Lobo's done, but every one of those blood particles turns into a new Lobo.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, by the way, I could always do this. I just don't like competing with myself. So I don't ever do this. So that's why he never does that. And so the fight continues. And
There can't be more than one main man, though.
yeah, well, it gets worse.
Oh,
so
okay.
because this is the dark multiverse. So Darkseid realizes what's going on, and he's like, okay, Scott, you can reset the universe, but you're going to do it without Big Barda, and he destroys Big Barda. So Scott loses his mind and is like, well, I don't want to go on if it's out without Big Barda. So he reaches over and snaps Dove's neck. So now they have no way to make this conduit happen. So then Lobo kills Scott. Well, then Sinestro gets the bright idea of, I'm going to take the source wall since Lobo can regenerate and run the power through him and reignite the universe. And he does, and he resets the universe. But everybody is not Lobo looking, but they all have his personality in the entire universe.
Oh, God bless.
So everybody looks like monsters. Everybody's got the glowing red eyes, and they're all fighting over just destruction. It's amazing.
I want to live there now.
There have been 3 books in this series so far.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of them have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you guys reading these books.
Did this come out with one of the acetate covers that have been on the books?
No, it was just it's a glossy cover, but it's not the. Yeah.
DC's been doing these acetate covers the last 2 weeks that are just stunning. Like,
Yeah.
I realize like a lot of people look at quote unquote gimmick covers and they kind of roll their eyes. I'm a kid. I grew up in the '90s, so like I still have a deep love for that Force Works #1 book that had the giant pop out and stuff. I love gimmick covers, so I get these and I'm excited about them. I
have a
cool
cover that was like Gym World or something that has an actual gym in the cover of the book, and it leaves an indent on the book in front of it in my comic box. It annoys the crap out of me.
Brian Pulido does that to a lot of his Lady Death books, where he'll put like actual like rhinestones and stuff on the cover, and it's good. I love it.
No, so I highly recommend the series. I've read all 3. All 3 of them are good. This is not something I normally buy into. I don't like the what if stories, but these have been fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's because even though like you're going, okay, well, Scott's got a plan. They're going to save this universe. No, they're not.
It's just amazing to me, and I'm going to throw some shade here, how much better the spin-out stories have been than the source material for this.
The dark,
the dark multiverse bullshit. Yeah.
But you know that's going to end with him jumping out and beating the hell out of Tom King and then jumping back in, right? One of the dark multiverses that Wally's going to is going to be ours, where he beats the fuck out of Tom King for ruining his character.
That would be meta and funny. So yeah, dude, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's been great, man. I mean, I can't suggest these enough if you enjoy this kind of what if stories anyway.
Nice.
So.
Matt, you want to go or you want me to go?
Go ahead.
All right, I will go. So I have an interesting comic. It's not something that's typically in my wheelhouse. I actually picked it up in Portland when the last time I was in Portland at a little local comic shop up there.
You go to Portland often, do you?
No, just the one.
The last time I was in Portland.
I've actually not been there twice. I've been there twice. I love it. I want to move there.
Yeah, Portland rocks.
But this book is by a creator that I've followed on Instagram for a long time. I learned about him a few years ago, and he's a manga artist. I know you guys don't hear me talk about manga a lot, and because there's not a lot of manga that I read, and I think they're good comics for the most part. But I'm just not interested in a lot of the ones that are available readily on our side of the water. But this is by a guy named Shintaro Kago, and I love Shintaro Kago. He is quite possibly, in my opinion, for the limited knowledge that I have, probably the second best manga artist and writer at like Cronenbergian body horror. I would say that Uzumaki is probably that's the name of the book, not the writer or the artist. But again, pulling a blank. I'm tired.
I had it just a second ago until you said it.
Anyway, the guy who wrote Uzumaki.
Junji Ito.
I'm hung up on the word Cronenbergian.
You know Cronenbergian? What?
Cronenbergian.
Explain
That's
yourself.
a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Yeah. It's just like it's the only thing I've got to describe like Cronenberg style body horror. This besides saying Cronenberg style. Cronenbergian's better. It's like Arkansorian.
But we just make up our own words here. Whatever we want. You know what we're talking about. But don't add us.
Yeah, just go with it. We're tired. It's a fun time. But what I really enjoy about this book is look, I speak a different language than Shintaro Kago, than the vast majority of manga artists. And Shintaro Kago did something really cool with this series that's called Day of the Flying Head. This book has no words.
Wow.
The book is just, it's all just done in panel. It's all just done in pencil and ink. And which kind of allows me as the reader, or anybody as the reader, to make up your own story. So if you're ever curious about like what a writer does or what an artist does and how it really is a collaborative medium, a comic like this that it doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't tell you what's happening in the story. It's a subjective view. It makes you decide what the story is through what you're seeing. You have to translate it. Because it's a whole different visual language, and that's the way I love to look at comics. It's not just art. It's amazing art, but it's not just art. It's a language. Mm-hmm. It is a way that we let artists speak to us. And I don't have to know Japanese, and I don't need a translator to be told this story. I just have to be able to understand the same language that Shintaro Kago is telling me through lines, through images, through pictures. And I love that about what that means about sequential art. So in this story, like I said, this is the second issue. I haven't been able to find the rest of the issues, but this is number 2. So I have no idea where the story started at. I just have this to go off of. But the story opens up with this kind of this yogi figure, not Yogi Bear, but like, meditation yogis. He has this pill, and he drops this pill into this vial of water, and he takes it, and then he starts meditating. And of course, like the lines start whirling around him, and you're like, "Oh, this dude's tripping balls." Like there's some shit going on. Like, what did this guy just take? And because he's in the deep meditation, like this dude just like lapped nirvana or something. And as he's sitting there, he starts to levitate, and all of a sudden his torso just goes opaque, and you can see all of his innards, like all of this dude's guts and everything that makes the body function, and his heart and his lungs and the intestines. It's all just visible. And all of a sudden, it all just like detaches from his body and exits out of where his head was. Like his head starts to float, and it's pulling all of these entrails and all of these nasty gooey bits and everything behind him. And every image up until this point has been up close, and it's just been him. What you realize at this point is he's in the center of a room, and like he's got an audience who's watching this. And they all start to cheer. They're all clapping like this is exciting. I guess this is what they wanted, was to see a floating head with all your innards attached to it, and maybe they think that this is what moves into the next level.
I guess this is what they wanted.
But
you sound surprised that that's what people would want.
Hey, I don't I'm not there. I don't know what happened in issue 1, but they all follow suit, right? Like they all dump their own pill, and they all sit down, and all of these people they start.
Where can we get these pills?
I don't know. Apparently, they're being mass produced. They all start floating with their heady, floaty entrails like little gross ghosts. And the book cuts over there, and like you were just asking, where can we get these pills? It's literally being mass produced. It's being mass marketed, and there's these chemists in a lab, and they're coming up with these things, and they're dropping it, and it's like a whole pharmaceutical industry, and they're pumping these things out to the public. Well, in this world, the daily, like the mundane part of the world is everybody works in a factory. Everybody drives the same little pod that flies. They all look the same. They all wear the same clothes. It's very beige. The design is cool. The design is not beige, but when everybody has the same thing, no matter how cool I think it is, because we don't have it on the page, they're just all going about their cogs in the machine. There is no. I'm just picturing personhood.
The commercials for Airheads, where their heads just swell up and they bounce around. Sorry,
no,
distracting.
No, you're like I think that's the story's about commercialism. That's kind of what I was getting at. So to bring something like Airheads in there, it makes perfect sense. And what this story is doing, it's showing how these pills that do this thing and that are being mass marketed to the mundane is really fucking up the program in this world. Like people are starting to move away from the capitalist society. They're starting to move away from the things that, that's what they're doing. Everybody goes to their job, right? They're all part of the machine. Like all these people that wear the same clothes and they drive the same cars and they are the same floating pods. They all go to work at the same time. They're all doing the same thing. They're like little ants in a row. And these people that are taking these pills, they're disrupting that. Like so people aren't showing up to work now. Things are being left undone. Like everybody's kind of doing things that they find self-beneficial and not beneficial to the whole. So like, these little floaty pods are crashing into each other and people are getting hurt and production is not being made. And it's really thrown a wrench into the whole system. And I think that's what Shintaro Kago is getting at with this, with a really cool, grotesque design. And so the workers start to do this. Like the people who like, they're getting a little pissed off because, like, well, Frank didn't show up to work, and now I got to do his fucking job. And let me take one of these pills.
I love you naming the guys.
So as you can see, this becomes
Franks are in a manga book.
I have no answers for these questions.
There is one in.
There's no words in my head. He's Frank.
There's one in One Piece.
That's true. Not that Frank though. But as you might imagine, the powers that be, they're not happy with this. Like the people that need the machine to run, they hate this. The people at the top, like the economic system is being destroyed. This isn't conducive. They don't think it's proper. It's not right. They're aggravated about it. So they hire this assassin, and she's a very, almost a borderline Japanese take on Laura Croft, and she's got a crossbow, and she goes after these people, and she's like shooting the floating heads. She's actually shooting them through the heart that dangles beneath the floating heads. But she's going about this, and she invades the pill factory that they're making, and she starts wiping folks out. And these things, they start to come after her. Obviously, they see her as a threat, and they overtake her. I mean, there's a lot of these things, and they dump her in this vat of whatever, like, liquefied version of these pills thing come out, and she drowns in this vat. And so they get her out, and they check her heart, and she doesn't have a pulse, and they take her to a morgue or something. And as she's laying on the slab, like, her body just arcs up like in a back bend, like a very just visceral, instantaneous reaction that you've seen in a ton of horror movies. I mean, you know what I'm talking about at home. Yeah. You've seen this. And she bends over backwards, and like her torso from literally her vagina to her face just opens. It just splits up. And like you see her rib cage, and there's all of her guts, and she's walking around, she's skidding around on all fours in like a back bend.
I know what you meant by
all of her all of her guts and stuff. And she starts attacking these people. Like, she starts going off of the regular mundane people, the ones, the factory workers who have still, they're providing this product, but they're not taking it themselves. She's a monster. She's an abomination of this, and she starts just ripping into them. And like
she was a monster before because she tried to run their freedom.
Well, there's that, but she starts dumping these workers in the vat.
Oh, nice.
And so she's kind of created a whole little abject horror legion of these people who are neither floating head people and are not, like, the story's crack, essentially. Like, this goes beyond, like, people who just are against weed and people who find crack.
That's what I thought it was a kind of a take on the legalization of weed.
That's my interpretation of it. I have no idea if that's what he meant at all. But because he didn't provide words in the story, I get to make up the story, and I find this a fascinating exercise.
I wonder what happens if you read it from back to front like manga should be.
They get better. Things get a lot. There are these terrible entrail monsters, and they find a magic pill, and they're all healed.
They all get better. See how it works.
Yeah, the moral would be much different. Take these pills, your guts go back inside.
But by the end of this story, this girl, the main girl, the bounty hunter or whatever, the assassin, like, she's been captured and strapped to, like, this pole, like she's just splayed, and just everything just hanging out over it, everything. But it's too late because she's already created this little sub-legion of people just like her that are out in the world, and they're just going after stuff. And that's where the book closes. It's just done. You don't get anything else. I love this book. Like, this is something, like, this is the kind of comics that I think do more than, like, your mainstream Shonen Jump manga, or, the equivalent of manga of which is Marvel over here. This is outlaw comics. And that is awesome. Like, the work that's being done here, just the storytelling work on the page, and the fact that they're not afraid to go to the grotesque. They're not afraid to really be subversive in the imagery. Again, no words in this book, but you are able to translate. Like, this is either a conversation about the medical industry or the pharmaceutical industry or the illegalization of drugs, or how fucked up commercialism is, or how fucked up our economy is over here.
Things.
It can be anything, but there's such a broad swath of things to pull from here, and it's just black and white. It's just black and white inks. There's no words. It's all subjective. It's all for you to interpret. This is a beautiful artifact of comics to me. Like, I hold this dear, and this is the kind of manga I want. I know you're a big fan of One Piece. That doesn't resonate with me. There's a lot of other shoujo stuff that doesn't resonate with me. This, like this doesn't just resonate.
There's a few manga that I really enjoy. One Piece, anything by Junji Ito.
Yeah.
A few.
Right.
You know?
This is like Junji Ito on speed.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So.
And man, I dig the shit out of it. I love this book. So
Nice.
go if you can find Junji Ito's work anywhere, get it, man. It's good. It's good for your soul.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe not. Maybe it's a corruptive force. So check it out.
It's good for your soul.
What you got for us this week, Matt?
So I'm going to talk about Marvel Comics Fallen Angels #1 by Brian Hill, Szymon Kudranski, Caleb,
I'm going to leave the room.
and Frank D'Armata. This book was
terrible.
better than it deserved to be. Brian Hill being the writer, I was expecting this book to deliver because I've read a lot of Brian Hill, and he is a very dependable writer. And it exceeded my expectations. It definitely exceeded my expectations. It was better than good. It starts out with this series. It seems like it's going to circle around Psylocke. So it starts out. Psylocke believes that she has found a way to live peacefully in Krakoa. But however, one day during her meditation is interrupted by a violent vision and a voice invading her mind. And she's told about a coming threat called Apoth. She's also told that she will wither in the peace Xavier has provided. Her being this voice is, telling her, you will be defeated by victory is essentially what is being told to her. You will soften in inactivity. That kind of message that we've seen in warrior tales before.
Right.
I always think of Apocalypse Now when I hear this kind of thing, and this is one of those tropes that I really like.
Don't get off the boat.
Yeah, man, yeah. So once this message is delivered to her, the next thing we see is an exchange between her and Magneto, and this is a fantastically written exchange. Brian Hill nails some great Magneto attitude and dialogue, and the panels are great.
I believe that you believe that.
They are great. These panels were super cool. And so she's asking Magneto for permission to leave Krakoa. And Magneto is telling her, no, you do not have permission to leave. We're on lockdown since the loss of Charles.
Oh, yeah. Well, they killed that guy after they said they weren't going to kill anybody.
And
See, I never read that in the comics.
But what's interesting, and it gets a little more complicated than that.
Yeah.
After he tells her that. So she then goes, because he sends her to go talk to Mr. Sinister. Tell Mr. Sinister your plight.
That's terrible advice.
Yeah,
Well, the
on
fact
the
that
surface.
she's having to answer to Magneto to begin with.
On the surface,
Yeah.
That's what this is written very well. So then she goes and has another fantastically written interchange with Mr. Sinister.
Can I jump in real quick and ask a question? Which Psylocke is this?
We don't. It is not Braddock. We know that.
It's not Betsy?
Yeah,
It's her. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't really know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't really know yet.
Because I know they did something recently where they put her back in her English body, didn't they? Wasn't that a thing? Or am I making that up? Was that just a bad dream?
She said all she says in this is that she's no longer Braddock.
Okay, gotcha.
That's all you know.
Yeah. So she's asking Mr. Sinister for help to leave Krakoa. And it's like, so you're at, and his response is, you're asking me to help sneak you out of paradise. So she once again explains, well, essentially this is paradise for those who need it, for those who it fits into, and she's not one of those. She's an assassin, and the trained assassin piece doesn't work for them. That isn't how they jive. So she goes on to recruit X-23 and Cable because she recognizes in them that they're basically restless aggressors. In fact, safety sucks is what X-23 says at one point. She doesn't think anything she does matters.
That needs to be on a T-shirt.
Because there's no fight, there's nothing that needs to be accomplished. So X-23 is basically she can't handle the peace is what she tells Cable at one point. So they agree to go with Psylocke, but what's interesting is X-23 pulls Psylocke aside at one point and says, I'll go with you, but you got to leave Cable here. He needs this. He needs peace. And she makes a point to say, and I also want to escape Logan's shadow. I thought that was really cool to throw in as well. So, that being part of her motivation is really interesting to me. And also is interesting because it's hard to fathom you're going to escape Logan's shadow. His shadow is far too big in the Marvel universe.
Bigger than he is.
Yeah. I mean, his impact is.
Yeah.
But that was really cool to throw that in there, that being part of her motivation. So they leave Krakoa. They go to Japan to seek out Apoth. They encounter him in a way that they did not expect, and that actually sends them back to Krakoa. So Psylocke can actually build a team of killers. And her intention is to bring Apoth back to Sinister for him to study before she kills him. And that's where the book leaves off. Is her plan to go back. She's going to actually recruit Cable and then whatever other people she sees as our killers. So who she comes up with to recruit from this point on, I'm really looking forward to.
One of my favorite exchanges in this book was her and Sinister the first time.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
just don't bore me. What is it you want?
Yeah.
Thank you for not being boring, because, it's fabulous Sinister.
I don't think that I have ever fallen in love with a character that I did not give any shits about so quickly as I have fallen in love with Sassy Sinister.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. Like, I love everything about what they're doing with that character.
Well, and even her interaction with Magneto, because Magneto's like, yeah, officially I'm telling you not to do this. Unofficially, go talk to Sinister.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And
Nice.
in Sinister at one point, he's like, when she talks about her conversation with Magneto, he's like, what you need to do is use Magneto's ego against him. It's very easy. It's so good. I mean, it's so good.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Everything. Some of the art in this is fantastic. Some of it's what you expect from him. Some of it's fantastic. And the story is so good that the up and down art did not affect me.
The narrative is dynamite.
I think Brian Hill's amazing.
Brian Hill is
Brian
amazing.
Hill's
And I will
amazing.
be on this book because of Brian Hill.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, it definitely exceeded my expectations. I really didn't expect it to be quite this good.
Yeah, neither did I. And it's interesting how this is all tying in so well together. So
Yeah.
So seriously, there's amazing work being done in the X-Men editorial office to keep all of these things on track, all of these things flowing, all of these things connected, not stepping on anybody else's stuff. And that's the way it should be.
Well, and in the front of every book, it tells you which issue to read first. If two books came out that week, you know which one to read first because it's telling you.
And it's amazing to me, like, and here's the thing. Look, Hickman's a genius, right? Like, this is a thing. It should not have taken Hickman to make this happen. Like, we've been talking about this. Craig, you and I have been friends for close to, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah.
We've had this conversation. Like, this is not anything that people knew didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Like, there should be continuity in the same world, especially in the same department.
Yeah.
It should not have taken Hickman to come in here and said, no, you guys should probably talk about what fucking books you're writing and put everybody on the same page.
That's editorial.
No, that's what I'm saying. It should not have taken.
No, it shouldn't have, but that's,
And what is baffling to me, and I'm going to step on some toes, and it's nothing against the man himself. I think Jordan D. White is a fantastic human. I love that man to death. He's still the editor, the chief editor over the X-Men stuff. He was the same one that was over the X-Men stuff when it was all bonkers and bananas and nothing connected and people were showing up in the same book and he's still the same guy. So what are you doing at work, dude?
Mm-hmm.
Like sorry to step on those toes, but how have this why are you you're still the same guy? Like what changed and did something change? I would love that answer.
I think what changed is they finally assumed. You can only assume what changed is they decided to address it, and they are addressing it with a top talent.
Yeah.
I mean, period.
The people that are on these books, at least on writing all of these books, are fantastic writers.
Yeah.
On every book that they have.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
Marvel seems to make it a point to go out and bring in the best writers and artists on the industry. Mm. I mean, because there's so many of the writers they have in Marvel in general that I was reading all their creator-owned stuff, and they're doing hardly any of that anymore because Marvel has gone in and gotten them.
Money, man.
And they have decided at some point to pony up and get top talent back
Well,
in
and it
the-
shows overall in what Marvel's doing right now.
That's what I'm. Yeah. I mean,
I really like their charity initiative too. The fact that they're letting Kudaransky do art is beautiful charity.
Yeah.
Like I think it's wonderful. Like that's helping somebody in need, and I think that's fantastic because that's
Well, you should support that. You should back up that.
I do. I'm buying a lot of their other books, so they continue to flood that market.
I have only one book in the X-Men series so far that's been a meh to me.
Yeah, same here.
And
Which one was that?
Excalibur.
Excalibur. Okay.
And it's not.
It wasn't
I'm
poorly
going to wait
done.
and see where it's going to go. But so far, it's only been one that's been meh. Everything else has been
knocking it out of the
Yeah.
park. Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. Well, we got a convention floor to get back out to, and we got some interviews that we need to try to set up and pull, so we can hopefully bring some more like really really cool stuff because I hope we do. So we're going to tentatively say that we might insert it right here, and if we do, great. I'll come back and edit it later. If not, I might put it out on a different forum, so just keep your eye out for that. But as always, on Wednesday, new books are coming out, right? Like you're going to head to your local shop, you're going to get a package in the mail, you're getting something because you're reading new comics because you're a good person. And we know that because you listen to this podcast. And so we're going to give you guys some little tips. We're going to set the menu for next week. We don't know if these books are going to be good, but we have high hopes, I think. And so I want to tell you guys to go pick up a book. It's actually it's from a publisher I own nothing from. It's brand new to me. And this publisher is called Cinebook Press. Never heard of these guys. I don't think I have anything by them anyway. If I do, it's like one issue stuck in the back of a box somewhere.
Makes me want a cinnamon roll, though.
But this book is called The Regiment, The True Story of the SAS. It's written and drawn by Ted Benoit. This is the true the true and incredible story of the origins of a unit that would become legendary during the Second World War and remains to this day one of the best special forces outfits in the world. It takes place in 1941 when almost all of Europe is under the Nazi heel. Great Britain still holds out, but the situation worsens with every passing day. North Africa, the gateway to the Middle East, and its immense oil reserves in Rommel now threatens Egypt, the keystone of the British defenses. In these desperate times, three men who are named David Sterling, these are real men, Blair Main, and Jock Lewes, they're very unconventional officers, band together and create a small elite fighting force that would become military legend, the SAS, the Special Air Forces. Again, true story. I read the synopsis; those were not my words. So I don't get sued. That was the synopsis that they provided. But that's for somebody who loves military history, Matt, you especially. I think you would love this if you can find it. Mm-hmm. Man, I think this is going to be cool. Check this book out.
Nice.
So the one I'm going to talk about is actually a book that's 30 years old.
Nice.
It's Books of Magic, 30th Anniversary Edition, Deluxe Hardcore Edition, or Hardcover Edition.
Hardcore.
Of course, it's DC Comics. It's Neil Gaiman's classic tale that introduced Tim Hunter to the world is back, and Timothy Hunter could be the most powerful magician in the world, but does he really want to be? John Constantine, Phantom Stranger, Mr. E, and Dr. Occult are all trying to direct him in which way he should go. And if you know anything about those four people, they're not exactly the mentors you want. So a lot of people say this is where Harry Potter got its start from. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that she actually read this book, but Timothy Hunter looks a lot like Harry Potter.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of that, and it came out long before Harry Potter, but a lot of people think that this is where Harry Potter got its origin.
Sounds like a gorgeous piece of shelf porn, man.
Yeah, it is, and I'm going to get this. I've read the book. It's fantastic. If you like Neil Gaiman, if you like Sandman, it kind of comes out of those same pages. So it's fantastic.
I'm currently reading those pages right now.
Nice. So I'm looking forward to Image Comics Olympia #1. Mm-hmm. This is by Kurt Pyers, Alex Diotto, Tony Pyers, and D. Cuniff. This, so the synopsis, Elon is a latchkey kid who spends his days alone reading comic books until his favorite superhero, Olympian, comes crashing off the page and into reality. This apparently he was inspired to write during a cancer treatment. This is called a comedic love letter to the comic medium. So that's why I'm going to pick this up. Those words, I want to see what that means. A comedic love letter to the medium.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm interested in this.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure. I didn't sign up for that, so if you get to the shop Wednesday and I'm not there, grab it for me.
Okay, we'll do.
Pretty please. All right. Well, that's all we've got for right now, right?
That's it.
We got a con to go to.
We do.
Let's
get out on
real
that
quick.
front.
Real quick. What are you guys looking for today? Anything, or did you buy everything yesterday?
I've bought most of my stuff yesterday, but I
Mm-hmm.
am going to. I've got a couple of more things to get signed by the Star Wars people that I brought today.
I think I'm gonna go by Graham Nolan's booth, take another look at his stuff, and pick up something. I'm such a big Bane fan. I think I'll hate myself if I don't.
Yeah, I think you have to. I'm going to go check out Artist Alley. I've got to go pick up a piece by Jacob Chabot. He worked on one of my jam pieces, so I'm really excited to see that. I'll post pictures of that on our Facebook page and our Instagram later, which, by the way, if you're not a member of our Facebook groups, you should come join those. Please do. We would love to have you there. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. Got any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot us an email at southernpridegeekery@gmail.com. Like I said, we're going to go try to line up some interviews to some incredible creators that I hope we'll be able to bring to you. So you guys, if not, go forth, have a great week. We'll have some comics, and we'll see you later. Woo! That's a good